I've felt things in my life. I've asked questions and feel like I've gotten answers. So I do believe in a God or something. I don't think it's what anybody thinks it is. I think it's probably something else. But I've definitely asked some questions and felt some things in my life to where I'm like, okay, something's there, and I respect it, and I don't know what it is, but yeah, I can go deep. If it was a Friday night and we'd had a few drinks and we were hanging out, like I'd probably go even deeper with it.
All right, today on the show we are joined with Adam Stilwell. He's a director, screenwriter, and all around an awesome dude. We caught up with him around the Toronto After Dark Film Festival. He had his film The Free Fall playing there, and what can I say about that movie? It was one of my favorites of the entire weekend. And if you're into any type of psychological horror, I suggest you go out of your way to see it. I believe it's only doing festivals right now, but he said it's going to have a major release possibly next year. So definitely follow Adam on his Instagram and keep in the loop of that because you don't want to miss it. And around hearing all about this amazing film, we jump into so many fun subjects such as how his passion led him through the industry to making his own feature, our mutual love of the album Smash by the Offspring, whether he believes in ghosts and demons, and also an in-depth look on the sound design of his latest film. He worked with a guy who made all the stuff for the Conjuring, Insidious, and just how they work together to make the vibe and the atmosphere of the Free Fall on point. But with all that being said, I can go on and on about how much fun I had talking to Adam, but why don't you listen to it right now? Ah!
Hey, how's it going, man?
Great, man. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you, brother.
Oh, fantastic. How's the weekend going?
It was good, man. It was good. It's a big time for birthday parties out here. So there was like 3 in one weekend. So it was,
Yeah, I feel you too. For some reason, everybody I know was born around like late August and September. It's like nonstop for me as well too. So I get it.
Yeah.
Plus, you had like the film playing at the fest too. I can imagine like PRs emailing you all the time. Just like, hey, talk to this guy. Like pulling you in
Yeah, it's definitely nice though. I'm down with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And
yeah, it's good to be finally getting it out and getting going.
Yeah, and speaking of the film, I want to say too, it's like I've been watching movies all week, almost too much, oversaturating myself with horror. But kind of my ritual was like I pull out the notepad if I'm going to talk to like a director or an actor or whatever. And as I'm watching the movie, I make notes. But with your movie, I got so locked in, and then all of a sudden, like the credits started rolling, and I looked at my notepad. I'm like, oh yeah, like it was totally blanked.
Yes,
that was a great thing because I was so immersed of just the story and what was unfolding, and as it was going on and on, there's just so many questions with the characters, and bravo, man, it was fucking awesome.
Awesome, man. Yeah, it worked.
Yeah. So all I did was like write one line: best film of the festival, in my opinion, too.
I'll take it, man. That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
really appreciate that.
Yeah. So when did you start getting into production of this one?
So this one was pre-COVID, and we were literally, I think it was we had about 2 weeks left to do sound. We had Sean Ashmore coming in to do his final ADR the week it all hit. So like the week America shut down.
Yeah. And that was such like an unknown period of time too. Like I can imagine, or like a lot of people were saying, oh, it's only going to be 2 weeks, go hide out. And then 2 years later.
Yeah, dude. I never believed the weeks thing. I was like, I don't know about that, man. I think it's going to go longer than they're telling us. And but luckily we were safe, very safe for a while there, especially, Sean having to come in and but luckily we were mixing where we were mixing was a big theater, not big, but it was like a nice sized theater. So we could get in there and do the social distancing, and we got our ADR from him, and we got the final mix. but then, you know, it's just been such an odd year, you know, and we're just getting ready to launch into the festival season and entering into fests and everything, you know, March, or no, it was like late January, early February. So it was like right when we're gonna get into festivals and go, and then it was like pause.
Yeah. And this year, for the first time, like Toronto After Dark was online fest too, which
Yep.
I feel like there was like pros and cons. Like, what was your experience with that?
It was cool. It was cool. I mean, what's funny with them is, you know, this is my directorial, like my solo directorial debut, but I've been producing horror and working in the genre for years. So we've been on each other's radar. One of my movies has never matched up timing wise with Toronto After Dark. So, when I got in, I was like, yeah, we're finally going to meet and hang out. And then they're like, actually,
no, stay at home.
You know, it's a bummer, but a lot of this is cool. Like, I mean, you know, obviously it's more fun. We're all in the same space. And after the movie, you come up and talk to me and we can chat and you can tell me what you just told me. But, you know, we figure out ways to do it. I'm just happy it's coming out and that we're hopefully easing back towards normality and we can be in theaters again together.
Yeah,
you know, so,
And you mentioned this is like kind of like your debut as like a solo like director, did you just say?
Yeah.
And like that's such a banger for the first one, man. Like that's
awesome.
so awesome. Yeah. And it just seemed like just so polished. And like how was your experience like making it? And also like I know you wrote this film, right? Am I correct?
Well, the screenwriter is Kent Harper. He basically he had written a pilot for a television show with it. And this is a few years back. I had a movie called The Triangle come out in 2016. And as that was coming out, I knew I had to have something ready next. And I had always loved his pilot. And so we wanted to make it a full, a feature. And he let us, gave us the green light to, adjust it and add on to it and make it a feature. So yeah, I had a lot. And then obviously once the ball was rolling and I was directing, I had to make all the changes as the notes came in and as we adjusted. So it was great. It was a massive learning experience and very grateful for the whole thing. It was a wild one and weird with the COVID in the middle and everything. But yeah, it was a blast. I got to work with incredible people that I never thought I'd ever work with. I'm used to just making movies with my friends, and so what I'm hoping in the future, obviously the friends, I meld it all together and the friend circle keeps growing and
yeah, keep it going. It's like like I mentioned, it was such a good movie. And it's like I was thinking over the weekend too, like because I was watching so many different films and some films would have like such a great concept and maybe like there's something a little off with the execution. And I just kind of want to know like maybe like some of the challenges you face of like putting a script and bringing it to life. And because I feel like that was like one of the strongest points of your movie, because the story just seemed like very intricate and like you needed to be very detailed oriented with what's reality and stuff and just taking the audience member on the journey.
Yeah, I'll say that was a major challenge. And that's funny. James Neist, who's the director of photography, who did Bly Manor, has been working with Mike Flanagan a lot. And he did Hush and everything. Awesome. And he came in so excited. He's like, what are we going to do? Are we going to make the dreams look different? Are we going to do this? And we kind of decided to stay with make the world like a kind of timeless world that was just a little off, but stick to that reality. So you wouldn't really know when you're in a dream or where you are. And as you know, when the twist happens or when you get what you get at the end, there's a different way to talk about everything there.
Yeah, definitely. Even like I'm having trouble like trying to ask the questions without spoiling it for the audience too, because it's kind of it takes you on a ride and kind of puts your brain in what's reality and what's fake, but or like what's being caused by maybe like a different entity. And I love how it wasn't like I don't know, there was like a lot of like subtlety to it as well. Where like throughout the whole thing, it's like it could be supernatural, it could not be,
Yeah.
it could just be like a mental thing going on. And yeah, it was
Well,
really cool.
Yeah, my watchword, subtlety is I mean, in any filmmaking, no matter how unsubtle or subtle your film is, subtlety in the details is where you're gonna really seal something, you know. And this film in particular, we had to be really subtle and sneaky. And my watchword was elegance. I wanted to make something with elegance. You know, I wanted to go full horror when we go full horror, but I wanted it to feel kind of like, you know, this is my Rosemary's Baby, or, you know, I mean, obviously it's nobody can touch that movie, but that's the vein I'm living in, and the movie I'm watching over and over as I'm coming up to it. And the movies like The Others, which are, you know, and the Burnt Offerings, these kind of like haunted house movies that have, you know, quite a bit of elegance to them, in my opinion. And so that was really a watchword there, to get that elegance into the details and really make sure everything. It's a one house movie. It's a one spot, you know, one location film for the most part. So you really want to draw it out and make every nook and cranny interesting if you can. So we tried to do that.
Yeah, you guys killed it too. And even I think I read what the sound was, it like the person who worked on like Conjuring and Insidious.
Oh, the score is by Joseph Bishara. And oh my God, to me, he's like kind of him and Jimmy are kind of our rock stars of this. I mean, when we got him, you know, he did the Conjuring, Insidious, Malignant. He's done everything. He's like the man, and just incredible dude as well. And right from the beginning, I think he was one of the early ones that somehow we got the script to, and he loved it. He loves devil shit and stuff. So
yeah. Me too.
So there's that's mild spoiler, but so he got it right away, and his score is so fucking cool. He came to, we filmed in LA, so he came to the set a couple times, and it's that big, beautiful old, you know, wooden house with wooden creaky floors. And he was walking around, and he came up to me and he was like, man, I think I'm going to do this with all woodwind instruments. And I was like, dude, cool. That is so sick. Like, just because Bishara is like, you know, he's a big, you know, violins and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, it's going to be so unique and cool when he just has to narrow himself down to using woodwind instruments. And I've always been like a fan of that low bass oboe sound. And like, it came together, like when he put his music to it, I was crying. I'm like, okay, thank God we got it. You know, you put all this work into it and it's getting close and you've got all this, but then the music comes in and it just makes everything kind of come together. Yeah, it was one of the best moments, and he's incredible. Yeah, he's our rock star for this movie, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, totally. I just felt like the whole package, from like the look, how it filmed, like the music too. It's just really helped me, like, as a viewer, just get totally immersed in it and just building the intensity. Like, I felt it in my body as the movie progressed, and you start feeling a little more uncomfortable and getting into the story. I feel like Joe's music has a lot to do with that. He really understood, and I'd say more if this was spoiler free, but I think he took on the character of the bad guy in this film and played it against itself in a really interesting way, to where some of the scarier moments are more celebratory in the score if you really listen for it. It's really cool. Maybe I'm thankful that everything was online this year, because maybe I'd have an anxiety attack if I was like in a theater, like with I got my shitty computer speakers.
Yeah, totally.
And I still felt that way. So
yeah. Well, hopefully you'll get that chance at a panic attack, because I think in next year it possibly could be hitting some theaters. We'll see.
Great. I was going to ask that question.
It would be nice. Yeah. We're in the middle of things. I can't say stuff, but fingers crossed.
Yeah. And I kind of want to get spacey with you as well too. You mentioned the devil shit, and I want to know what you possibly believe. Do you believe like when we die, our soul kind of is left, like there's some certain type of energies that are evil and good, or like, how do you feel?
Totally. I'll start with the fact that the only thing that I believe in is possibility. I think that I'm too little. I'm a little human being on this planet. I don't really, you know, I imagine I'm semi-intelligent and intuitive in ways, but I don't pretend to know big secrets of the universe.
Yeah.
I always am exploring them. I love that shit. And anytime I get overstressed or worried about little shit, I just like watch something about space, and then I'm like, okay, we're good.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm
like,
just a tiny dot.
yeah, what am I worried about? I don't
Yeah.
matter, and then I do matter, and it's fine either way, like whatever. So yeah, the interesting thing I can say is that this film in particular is very important to me. I think I really explored what it's like to try and have sympathy for the villain, and in the way of, I feel like when you're making a horror movie, if your villain's just bad for bad sake, that happens, of course, that's great, like Michael Myers and shit, like love it. But you know, in a movie like this, it's like it's worth it to explore maybe why they are the way they are, and get to that. Whereas I don't think any of us are born bad. I think we are created.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, whatever actions we take are reactions to things that have happened to us or throughout our lives. So really delving into it on this one. And if you see the movie,
Yeah.
you know who I'm talking about. And so it's a big bad guy to explore. That being said, I don't know. I think I do believe I've felt things in my life. I've asked questions and feel like I've gotten answers. So I do believe in a God or something. I don't think it's what anybody thinks it is. I think it's probably something else. But I've definitely asked some questions and felt some things in my life to where I'm like, okay, something's there, and I respect it, and I don't know what it is, but yeah, I can go deep.
Yeah.
If it was a Friday night and we'd had a few drinks and we were hanging out, like I'd probably go even deeper with you. Buddy.
Yeah. Well, for your next film, we're gonna have to do a part 2 to this interview too, and maybe like
I will say this. Yeah, and this is good because I know are you in Toronto?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so Ashmore is he's Canadian. I don't know exactly where he's from, but the reason I knew we had, I think it was the first day where I was meeting with actors. He came in, it was like he left, and I'm like, it's him, it's Ashmore. And I would have never thought that for this role. It was so great. He came in, and I'm like, okay, I mean, he's really always a good guy, and so like, and he came in, and he's deep too, man. Like we had like one of the deepest conversations I've ever had with somebody in my life.
Oh, amazing.
And I was like, and he's got a story that hopefully I have to talk to him about. We'll probably do hopefully podcast when the movie is released, and hopefully I'll get him to tell his story that he told me that day. But that dude's deep too, and that we connected that day, and I left. I was like, he's the one. We got to get Ashmore.
Yeah, such a good choice too. And even I was gonna mention too, another thing that was so strong about this movie was the acting and the intensity. And I only know Sean Ashmore from Iceman on X-Men.
Yeah.
And just like throughout the movie, like he turned it like in my brain to like, I'm trying so hard not to spoil things, but to this other person, and seeing emotions that I've never seen in his work before. And I'm like, yo, this guy's just killing it.
Dude, and it's so fun because we're similar guys. We're very upbeat. You would never expect a story like this to come out of, if you met me and him just randomly, didn't know who we were, you'd be like, oh, those goofy nice guys or whatever. So like it was really fun. He's very much like myself, so it was really fun to go deep and explore what I talked about earlier about what a villain is and what this particular villain is, and to really explore the inside job of it all. And he was always down to go there. He's darker than you think. He's fucking cool, and like really some of the most interesting, fun conversations I've ever had was getting to the point where we could try and do what we tried to do with the movie. So
like all the scenes, like as the movie goes on with him and Andrea, they're just so intense. And I kind of want to know a little bit about like filming those scenes. Do they get exhausted like going to that far, or like? Yeah,
I would say that there is crying in this movie. The actors do cry. It's an odd horror movie in that sense, but the reason is I think it's been widely talked about that, at least thus far, that it's a relationship film. It's about a relationship, and they were playing that relationship hard, like playing it very real. And that's where most of my direction came from, was talking to them about that stuff. And both of them are just killers. So it was like, because sometimes you got the camera pointed at Andrea, sometimes you got it pointed at Sean, and sometimes when it's pointed at Sean, Andrea's crying, and I'm like, hold it, wait, and then we get to Andrea and she had no tears left, so we'd have to work it out and get it back, or the other way around. But for the most part, it was the only time I think Andrea really got exhausted was a scene that I can't talk about, which is at the end of the movie. And it was pretty great. She gave it her all. I had my direction for her was not easy. It wasn't just like scream. It was like, no, you're like literally like something is coming up out of the bowels of your body into your throat and out of your mouth. So it was like almost this like full body guttural thing I was trying to get her to do, and she was doing over and over, and she hated me, but but we love each other, it's all good. Yeah. But that was the one time she, out of anyone, where she was very, very tired. And that was the point of it. If you see the scene, you see the movie, you probably know what I'm talking about, but it's like the one thing I can't tell you.
yeah. Unfortunately, maybe down the road again, we can talk about these things. But,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's definitely, so like this was out on this festival. You mentioned that it was going other places. Can people like who listen to this see this now, or are they gonna have to wait a bit, or
the film?
Yes.
So the film showed at Toronto this week. It's about at Toronto After Dark. Coming up, it's at the Erie Horror Film Fest. That's just going to be there, and then it's at Film Quest, which is in Provo, Utah, and that's a good one. I think that they may have an online thing, so people in America can possibly see. And then we just got into Monster Fest in Australia, so that's gonna be really cool. But after that, I believe, like I said, fingers crossed, I think early next year it's going to be released. So it'll be sometime next year. So
fantastic!
It's coming.
Yeah. Awesome.
Hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah. And I kind of want to know a little bit about your career too. How did you start getting into film and like segue from watching films and being a fan to actually wanting to make them?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm from the mountains and deep in the woods in Montana. That's where I grew up. Only child, so my sandbox and out in the woods with my toys, telling stories, not knowing what the hell a filmmaker was. But since I was born, I had to entertain myself. And then high school hits, and parents hand down their camcorders, and you're running around with a camcorder playing "Gotta Get Away From Me" by Offspring really loud on a boombox while you're chasing your friend.
That was the first album I ever bought, actually.
Yes,
so, yeah. Smash classic. Holds up too.
Yeah, dude, it's funny. That day I went to the cassette tape store.
We're probably around the same age. I had it on cassette.
I bet. And me and my buddy were like, we're gonna buy a tape each, and I got Smash by Offspring, and he got Candlebox, and I clearly won. He was so pissed, which we still like the Candlebox, but Smash was the shit, dude.
Yeah. I had a similar experience with a friend. I got Smash, and he got Green Day Dookie to date.
Oh no shit!
Time. And we used to always because back then you couldn't just stream music, so we'd borrow each other's tapes. When we got sick of them, and
100%, dude.
Yeah, there's something so charming about that. I don't know what it is.
It's beautiful. Like I remember that day we sat on his porch and we listened to both in a row. I think we listened to Smash first, and he was like, "Oh, dude, there's no way my tape's as good as that one."
He just knocked it out of the
park. Stupid, dumb shit. Goddamn motherfucker.
Then
I
I
mean,
had to
that blew
hide
our
the tape from my
minds.
parents after that part. It's just
Yeah.
like, holy shit.
Oh yeah, totally right. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But you're just sitting there going, "Oh my god, that's the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life."
Yeah, and
Anyway.
I'm not supposed to be listening to
Yeah,
this. I'm
yes.
gonna get in trouble.
Yes, dude. Yes, so good, so good.
Yeah.
But anyway, so and then just those friends who I made in high school, we'd rent a horror movie every Friday because we were nerds and didn't know what to do else other than that, and just fell in love with going and finding the weirdest VHS box and bringing it home and seeing what the hell it was. And then we kept in touch. I was a musician, so I did a lot that we ended up coming back. A couple of those friends lived here in 2000, I don't know, 2005 or something. We just took a couple Costco DV cameras into the streets of North Hollywood and made a ghost story. And that was the beginning. And we just kept going. And I was mostly producing and co-writing for a while, and slowly have slipped into, writing and directing. And I just love it, man.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
awesome.
Always horror. It's just the way it is, man.
It's cool, like hearing stories like yours too, and it's just like at the beginning you're just fucking around and seeing a snowball, and next thing you know, you blink, life goes by, and you're talking about, oh, maybe next year my film's gonna be in the theater,
Yeah,
like,
totally. And Joseph Bishara is doing the music, and James Neese is shooting it. And,
Iceman's in it.
Yeah, totally. Fucking, like it's awesome. And it's cool because I'm still as stoked to just go like make something with my friends to the same, keep those muscles, keep in shape, and, expand the universe.
Yeah, for sure. You got to have fun and like vibes and everything. And even I love hearing people tell stories on this podcast as well, because I find a lot of like either creators in all sorts of fields or even aspiring creators have been listening to this show too, to just hear the power of, oh, I just started doing it.
Yeah.
And because I always feel like the first step is always like the hardest in a way sometimes. And you just gotta, even if you don't know what you're doing, just fuck around. And
dude, it's the only way to figure out how to know, like, any of this stuff. You don't have to go to film school. You just have to start making stuff, and yes, know you're going to make mistakes, and thank God when you do them, that's the easiest thing to go, oh, okay, that was the no, now what's the yes? And then the next time you do it, you're gonna be better, and then the next time you'll be better, and you'll figure out if you like it or not. And if you don't, fuck it. And if you do, then you just keep making shit. But I'm with you. I do the same thing. I honestly hadn't listened to this podcast before, so now I'll start listening, because I need that too. Like, I mean, I'm still just like everybody else, looking to start something from nothing now, what my next movie is going to be. And I listened to, this morning I was listening to something, I have friends doing podcasts, and always, and people even, like Colors of the Dark is a good one for just being excited to hear about new stuff and hear filmmakers' origin stories. And I mean, we all need that, I think.
For sure. I definitely need that energy as well.
The DIY nature is what we're always going to love. So no matter how big the film gets, you'll always, those stories are always going to drive you. And I don't know, that's why horror's so cool, man. Get some blood, get some buddies, get your phone out, whatever you want.
What's interesting too on the podcast journey, I think this is probably going to be around like the 160th episode I've done.
Awesome.
And
man.
It's strange, like I've talked to people like all over the place, different crafts, from musicians, comedians, pro wrestlers, fucking filmmakers. And there seems to, like, it's like on paper, if I wrote what the show is down, it seems scattered, but there's like this theme of like just passion and creativity that's awesome. And I find like in different, like, even though people do different things, they have a lot of like the same experiences, or like almost the same vibe I get from like talking to them. And it's been like a strange like social study that I'm just starting to realize.
That's awesome, dude. I love it. I love that. I love that. And I believe it for sure, man. There's a vibe out there. It's none of it's easy, but once you get to a certain place, and talking to you, I could tell you probably draw a lot of cool people. Oh
yeah, like yourself, man. Like and again, it's like, it's such a cool almost excuse after I watch something and like something.
Yeah, right.
Like I kind of have a platform. It's like, oh, I can immediately like pick the creator's brain about it too.
Yeah.
So as much as people are like, oh, Sean, you put a lot of different artists and people on here, it's like selfishly, I'm getting a lot out of this.
Hey,
too,
dude.
you know? Having a blast and everything.
Yeah, man. That's what it's all about these days. It's the era of the podcast, man. I love it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, and I wanted to know too. Now that this movie's out, have you been listening to like a lot of different reviews too, and like hearing what other people are saying? And
It's funny. I haven't been seeking them out. I'm not like one of those guys who are like, I'm not going to look at reviews, but I just haven't been. I've been kind of busy, but I do have a couple of like my other producers and people involved in the film that send me them, or they'll pop up on like Twitter and I'll read so I can, keep promoting and send stuff. So I've seen a couple. It seems pretty good so far. So it's nice, like,
yeah. From what I seen, like in the little Toronto After Dark circle, like they had like a little virtual after party too, and I heard a couple people say the same thing as me. They thought this was like one of the strongest of the weekend, and yeah, I wanted to know, are you still riding off this one, or are you gonna are you working on something like your next movie or anything like that?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, COVID, the one night, the one nice thing was there was a lot of time to write, man. So I've got stuff. I've got a few scripts ready to go on different levels where I'm looking to do them, but I definitely have one that I want to move on faster than anything else, and we'll see if I can make it happen. But yeah, I've definitely got 3 or 4 horror scripts moving. Oh, and then one cool thing I did, this is podcast stuff. So one cool thing I did during quarantine is I did a narrative podcast. And we did it completely remote. We figured out how to do it like this and get actually, good quality recordings. I've friends who are actors in town and stuff, and it was when we all had to stay in our own rooms, and I was like, you know what, let's do something. So it's a horror narrative podcast. It's pretty cool. Like uses my old band in the world. We created this dark kind of LA music scene. So that's something I'm working on now, and that I'm hopefully going to be shopping around to do and release. I've never done an episodic, so it's been really fun writing episodes. And it's kind of like a teen coming of age rock and roll odyssey type thing, so nightmare situation. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm about that. Man. I got to check that out.
So, definitely. I'll keep you in the loop, and yeah, that should be coming. And then the movie will be coming out. I'm gonna obviously do everything I can for it, and hopefully that it does all right. But I'm not waiting for anything.
Yeah,
I'm ready
awesome.
to.
Well,
we've been sitting in COVID. We've been sitting in quarantine, man. Like, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I feel you too. I'm just antsy, seeing people, and it feels like I was in a cage and I just got out like a month ago. Like it's just. And I see that in people too when I see them now that in Canada, like bars just started opening too, and I feel like people are getting a little crazier than they used to.
Yeah, there's definitely a vibe, bro. It's good, man. It's the roaring 2020s, man.
Yeah, I love that. I'm stealing that, the roaring 2020s.
Dude, take it. We got to make that catch because it's happening.
And, you're talking about like your other projects you got in mind, writing throughout quarantine, and I think this film that you put out too is actually going to help you like land like almost like I would imagine whatever you want to do. Like they'd be like, oh, this is the quality of what this guy can produce. Like green light. Ahead of the free fall, was it a struggle to kind of put this together, or?
It was I made, like I mentioned, made The Triangle in 2016, which if you like slower, weirder movies, you might dig. It's another one I don't want to say too much about. Our saying for that one was go in blind, not knowing anything. But that I actually co-directed with 4 of my other buddies, and that's actually a podcast in itself, how we actually made that work. Nice. If you watch the movie, you'll know it was kind of like a reality situation where we set up a cops and robbers kind of game, but with like a cult in eastern Montana in the middle of nowhere. So that ended up doing really well. We got really good reviews. I think that year we were like Dread Central's like #1, one of their writers' #1 movies of the year and stuff, which was a massive surprise because it was a Hail Mary pass of a movie we made with no money.
Oh, that's
and
amazing.
I think, yeah, that along with the strength of the script for the free fall, that actually, you know, it wasn't, you know, it did well. Like the people immediately gravitated towards it. There were some complications, like there always is, getting it going, but yeah, man, it's a grind, but you know, it's a hustle. But keep going, and yeah, the triangle was that was the labor of love. That, I mean, it was a beautiful experience, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. But that hard work and dedication to make something with my friends that went hopefully above and beyond any expectations of something like that, that I think is what nudged that door open a little bit.
Yeah, I'm so intrigued to watch that. And that's got to be such an amazing experience, especially like having hardships and, like you mentioned, no budget doing it. Yeah. And I'm sure there's times while you're making it, like thinking like, oh, is this even worth it? Like, what the fuck are we doing? And then
totally. I will say this though, dude, more money, more problems. P. Diddy. I mean, I'll tell you, like, it's fine. It's just always, you know, it's always a grind. If you have money, if you don't have money. Yeah, but it did take, the triangle took a little longer because of the lack of fundage. It's going to be nice to be able to kick one out in 6 months or something. That's going to be like the rock star move of my life. When something doesn't take, this one we were cooking to do it, and then of course COVID was like, oh yeah, this one's going to take 4 years too. Or whatever it was.
Yeah, it's funny when you really think about it too. People think, oh, if I'm in this position, like I won't have any problems or whatever. And like, it's like maybe when you're making your first film and with no budget, it's like, okay, if it fails, it's all right. It's like on me. Yeah. And then you finally get that budget and it's like, oh shit, this better be good. There's backers, there's all these different things. It's different kind of stress, you know?
Yeah.
It never ends.
Yep. It's it's great. I just cherish the writing process. That's where I'm like, okay, this is my full creative, this is it. And then once you get it in the ring, it's like, oh, here we go. Like, you know, it's no complaints. It's some very lucky, awesome thing to be able to do ever, if you have money or not. You know, it's a ballsy move to make a movie, and to get to make one is a treat.
Yeah, well, kudos to you on your journey. I'm a new fan, and I can't wait to see.
Oh, that's awesome. I appreciate it. And I'll start listening to this podcast, and I'll be a new fan of yours. I'm already a fan.
Appreciate it.
I dig your vibe, man.
Cheers. That means so much to me. And yeah, before we take off, anything else you want to say, or where can people follow you and all that?
Oh yeah. So you could follow me on Instagram and Twitter. It's Adam Stilwell, but it's 1 L in the middle and 3 at the end, because there's other Adam Stilwells out there. And then, I guess if you're going to be in Erie near Halloween, look for the movie. If you're going to in Erie, Pennsylvania, if you're going to be in Provo, Utah, or Salt Lake around the beginning of November, look for it. And if not, look for it in early next year, hopefully.
Hell yeah.
Other than that, I'll be making stuff and hopefully talking to you more and talking to other people. Hopefully look out and try my stuff out. Hopefully you dig it.
Yeah, right on. And I'm definitely going to keep in touch. And like awesome, you said, if you're around that area, definitely watch the movie. You guys know I cover a lot of things, but this one has been like one of my favorites I've seen in a long time, and just awesome if you're into like psychological horror and demon shit. So yeah. And again, Adam, thank you so much for your time. I know you've been busy this past couple of days, and I really appreciate you taking the half hour to an hour that we've been hanging out today.
No worries, man. It's a pleasure. I really appreciate it.
What an awesome guy Adam is. Biggest thanks to him for joining me on the show. It's always so fun when I get to watch a film that I genuinely and thoroughly enjoyed, and immediately right after get to pick an actor or a director's brain or a writer or anybody involved, just pick their brain about it. And yeah, it's such a blessing with this platform, and I don't break the fourth wall enough. I did in this interview, but I don't know, I feel thankful being able to do this and meet awesome people like Adam. And like we mentioned, you got to follow Adam on his Instagram and keep in the loop when this film is gonna be released, because you need to see it. It's great. And speaking of things that are great and even people that I am grateful for, before we go, I got to give a special thanks to all of you legends out there on the Patreon. First up, our co-producer Jeremy Hopkin of Hopkin Design, the Queen Ola Mazuka of Sonic Fold, Ryan Watkins of Ryan Radio, Amanda McKnight of Top 10 Nerd, Pat Maloney, Ryan Campbell, Daniel Son, Devin Staple, Mike Ulio, Jenny Potter, Jared Pepper Bronstein, aka Mr. Spicy, and last but not least, Francis Coffer, aka my mom. Appreciate you guys so much. And if you're listening at home and you want to get these episodes early and extra exclusives and all that, you can go to patreon.com/thecreativeinbalance. Lowest tier is only $3 a month, and I try to give you as much awesome shit as possible. And speaking of that, we got another episode around Toronto After Dark for you. I believe that's going to be released next week, late next week, and early next week. We're going to cleanse our soul. We got a modern Buddhist joining us on the podcast, so kind of switch up the vibes back and forth from the horror to the deep meditation shit. It's even though the show's called The Creative Imbalance, life is really about balance. So that's what we're gonna do. All right, and you have no choice. But anyways, love you guys. Hope you have a great week, and we'll catch you soon.